All right, for more on this, we are now joined by a member of the South African Bar Association and Legal Practice Council of South Africa, Advocate Romeo Nthambeleni. A very good evening to you, and thanks very much for giving us your time here on SABC News, sir.
Good evening to you and the viewers.
All right, let's start here then. Of course, we're hearing that the president's legal team has advised him not to take the report on legal review. Are you of the view that his legal team advised him correctly? You know, we're being told that, the report carries no weight in law. Is that correct?
Yeah. No, look, I think, for now, why stay the honest nest? It is important that the president let the sleeping dogs lie on the basis of what you have put in the background to indicate that the matter did not go any further than Parliament. And on the surface now, the president appears to be strong, and that is the position where I think this advice is coming from.
Strong in what terms, legally or politically?
I think no legally, because that report. Remember, there is also a report that came from the public protector in relation to this issue, which was in favor of the president. And then now, that's why I'm saying, why stay the honest nest when you are standing on firm and solid ground? So that's why I think that advice was on that basis, Flo, that we cannot stay the honestness. And there's a qualifier to that statement, Flo, to say if the time comes that there's a need to actually review this report, the president will definitely do that. I think that is why the terms were couched in that format. Flo.
Would it be fair to question then this process? I mean, the fact that there was, a panel of, veteran legal heads that were put together to kind of look into this Phala matter, and now to proudly stand and say, well, the issue is moot now, and who cares that review doesn't carry any weight anyway. What was one could, possibly ask the question, then what was the point of putting together this big panel? I'm assuming monies were paid. What was the point then? Yeah,
absolutely. I think your answer you'll be told, Flo, that it was necessary, for the sake of clarity, so that the citizens are put at ease in relation to the working of government, and it was done for the purposes of transparency. But it was not only that panel that was looking at these issues alone. There were other law enforcement agencies in the country that were looking at the matter. I've just referenced the Office of the Public Protector. SARS was looking at the issue, and there was an issue also of the of SARS looking at the matter as well, and the Reserve Bank, and all those reports that came actually exonerated the president. And now, if I was the president or his legal advisor, I would obviously not rock the boat. I'll say, no, that's fine. I'm standing on good grounds. Up until then, this issue comes back. Then I can say, I want to review the contents of this report and set it aside. And
on that point, you're talking about if the matter comes back. And in fact, it was quite interesting that the president's spokesperson emphasized the words "for now." He said, the president will not be taking the report on legal review for now. And then went on to say, if circumstances do change, then of course, then the president and his legal team might then take a different turn when it comes to what they then think should happen next. What could happen that would change the situation or the circumstances? I mean, you point to the fact that the public protector, SARS, whoever has exonerated the president. So what could then change in this situation?
Yeah, Flo, it can change when any other interested party applies to court for the court to actually confirm the findings, and then being brought back to actually Parliament. And then that way, then the game changes completely. Now you have to actually review the contents of that report and set it aside, because it's standing now. And as you have correctly said, Flo, that when it went to the Constitutional Court, the Constitutional Court did not listen to it on the merits. They said that procedural is not the right thing to actually jump all the other courts and bring the review before the Constitutional Court. You need to actually take it to the High Court. So if you have a challenge again, then this is when the president says, no, I'm opposing. I'm actually wanting this report to be reviewed and set aside. And then now we'll start to look at the merits of the report itself and see whether a different court can come to a conclusion of reviewing and setting it aside or confirm its findings.
Yeah.
And that is the position.
And I think, Advocate, it's interesting that you point to the fact that, the report still, it still stands. And that can't look good on the president. He would not want to have it hanging over his head. Do you think that even if circumstances don't change, he would want to, at some point, have this report then challenged? Because, it's still there, it still stands, it's still saying that the president should or could account. I mean, does it look bad on the president from where you're standing?
Yeah, absolutely, Flo. Anything that it's a founding that has been made against you, which has got the adverse finding, can obviously not look good for the president. But as we have said, when we commence with these interviews, that when you are standing on good grounds, you don't actually want to rock the boat. But when you are politically compromised and you're put in a corner, then that's when you want to start defending yourself. So if the enemy seems to be far, Flo, you don't want to take the fight to them. But if they bring the fight to you, then you start saying, no, now I can start fighting for myself and review this report and actually challenge its context. So it will depend on what the future holds for the president and how he's actually looking. So if that situation, as we are postulating it, turns around, then that is when you will say, I want to actually challenge this report and challenge its content and set it aside once and for all.
And who could or would, push on the matter of this report? The fact that, the president and his legal team and certainly spokesperson mentioned that they are sort of leaving the door open to a possibility that they might have to relook at the president's stance and his legal team stance at the moment means that they're aware, that someone could or some parties could decide to go back to that report. So who would essentially have an interest in perhaps doing so?
Any party that has got an interest which shows that they can be able to argue locus standi in court and the court grants them that access, then it's an interested party that is allowed in terms of the constitution to actually bring a confirmation of the challenge on that report, and then that party can bring that, and then we are back to square one. Flaw. Then we now deal with the issues of the president wanting it to be completely reviewed and set aside. And obviously the president will oppose that party, who is bringing that, application. And from there, then the president will bring his own application to review it and set it aside once and for all. So that's why we are saying that it doesn't look good when, when it's sitting against the name of the president, because the contents stand unless they are reviewed and set aside by the court.
All right. Advocate Romeo, always a pleasure having you on the show. We certainly always appreciate your legal input there. That is Advocate Romeo Nthambeleni, member of the South African Bar Association and Legal Practice Council of South Africa.